Welcome to a Closer Look. In fact, the final episode of 2025.
Yeah,
it's hard to believe.
It's gone by really quickly. That's for sure. It's been.
It certainly has.
We're going to get into a little bit about the show and its history. But as people who've been listening to us know, we kind of officially launched just in September. So we've been at this for 3 months, and it's been a wild 3 months. But just to remind everybody, Closer Look is a podcast produced by Village Media. We're part of the Village Media family, right?
Right.
We are.
Yes.
The Village Media is all the local news sites that you subscribe to, whether you're living in the Halton region, in the Guelph area, in Northern Ontario. There's your local site is there. Sudbury.com, Bay Today, Aurelia Matters, Guelph Today, Thorold Today. We have 27 local sites now, as well as our bureau at Queen's Park, the Trillium, which is the largest bureau of reporters covering the provincial legislature.
Yeah. We'll talk about that
That's
in a
right.
moment. Yeah.
And this podcast was kind of built around that network of like, we thought, here's something, let's have a podcast where we can talk about issues that impact Ontarians in all different ways, whether they be really important, hard-hitting stories or just interesting conversations with people that matter to people in Ontario. And I think it's been great in that sense. It's just kind of something additional to the great local reporting we're doing.
Yeah. And we should back up just for a moment, if we can, to remind everybody that we used to do multiple shows, that encompassed, the journalism. And then we did Trillium Talk, which was, specific to Ontario politics. And then I believe it was probably Jeff, and we should give him credit, had this idea. What if we just kind of put it all into a melting pot and did one nightly, 5-day-a-week current affairs podcast that covered it all, and then Closer Look was born.
That's right. And it seemed like a big task when we thought about it, but it's been great because it's a mix of, newsmakers, our journalists come on the show to talk about the stories they're working on, and just interesting guests and things that are relevant to the people of Ontario. But as I look back on the show, there's two things I think about. I just think about what a year it's been for Village. It's been a phenomenal year of growth at Village. Like I said, we're at 27 sites now. We welcome Dundas to the fold, our audience in Dundas. Shout out to Dundas, next door to my hometown of Hamilton.
Hammer.
The Hammer. And that expands our sites in that area, in the Hamilton, Halton, Niagara region. I think of, just the stories we tell every day and the impact they have. The people listening to the show today won't have access to this, but we've had a lot of meetings in the last few days with our news teams, with our entire Village Media team, just talking about what a year it's been. And it has been phenomenal. The stories we're telling, the important journalism we're doing, whether it be, breaking stories about the Skills Development Fund at Queen's Park, which our Trillium team has been doing, whether it be, telling the stories of the interesting and inspiring people in our communities that are making a difference. All those stories come together to, make people remember that they belong in that community that they're in. They're part of something. This is their hometown, somewhere they live. And so I think it's been an unbelievable run for Village. I also think, we just marked the 1-year anniversary of Toronto Today, which is a major launch too. Toronto's a very crowded media market.
It absolutely is.
And Toronto Today has really found its place in that big market. They tell amazing hyper-local stories of things that are not going to be covered in the other media. And a lot of times the other media ends up following what Toronto Today has done. So a huge shout out to them.
And that seems to be commonplace, right, in a lot of our markets. That's the bigger media is sometimes
they end up following the work we're
us.
doing. Yeah, absolutely. They end up following the work we're doing, And I think of the work that the team in Barrie has done over the mayor's announcement that encampments that he declared a state of emergency over homeless encampments. And there's so many angles to that story, and they've covered them all so well. I think of our team in Guelph. There's a local developer there who's in bankruptcy, I believe, or insolvency now. And it's left tons of investors and tons of people out of money. And it's been a major local scandal. That's our team that is breaking those stories, right? And so we're doing that every day in our communities. And it's really, I basically just, as the editor-in-chief of the company, I get involved in a lot of these stories. I'm told about what's happening. I give a little bit of advice here and there, my thoughts on things, but mostly it's a well-oiled machine. I just sit back and watch.
Sit back and take the credit, brother.
It's great. It's great. And I have to say, we don't do it for awards, but it's nice when we get nominated for awards. And we were nominated just the other day for 10 Canadian Online Publishing Awards.
That's amazing.
Which is amazing, right? And I do want to give everyone a shout out.
For sure, do it.
Gabe Oatley in Toronto is nominated for 2 of those awards under the Best Feel Good Story category and Best Local Community News. We have another 2-time double nominee, Andrew Phillips, our editor at Midland today.
Right, yeah.
He's nominated in the Best Patriotic Story category and in the Best Blog Video Podcast category, which, by the way, he beat us at because we didn't get nominated for Best Podcast. So Andrew's obviously doing better work than we are.
Our own guy took us out.
Just
like
whooped
that.
us, yeah.
One fell swoop.
That's
just
right.
Gone.
And Andrew will actually be competing against his colleague Dave Dawson, our editor at It Really Matters and our regional editor in Simcoe County.
Right.
He's also nominated for Best Blog Column Videocast Podcast. He wrote a great column about the ice storm. Not great's the wrong word, but a very powerful column about the ice storms and you know how it's equally beautiful as it is devastating. It was a really well done column. Nikki Cole at Barrie Today. We already talked about Barrie. She's been nominated in the Best Daily News Sports Coverage category. Richard Hutton, one of our reporters in the Niagara region, nominated in the Best Local Community News or Sports category. Kevin Lamb, who's been on this program a couple times to talk about various things in Barrie. He's a fantastic photographer. He's nominated in the photojournalism category for the same thing, the ice storms that happened in that region last winter. And Julie Slack, our editor in Burlington, is also nominated in the Best Photojournalism category. She had some great shots of the high-flying world of falconry in that region. People are looking at falcons.
That's right, yeah.
Which is pretty powerful, pretty wild stuff. So to have such a long list, and of course, I can't forget, the team at Sioux Today, the video team and the CARES team that put together our Random Acts of Kindness every year. So that's Jasmine Rowley, Zafna Nakvi, Elise Nelson, Zach Trunzo, Drew Armstrong. These are, for those who don't live in Sault Ste. Marie, that was our first site here at Village.
That's
Sioux
right,
Today.
yeah.
It was the original site. And this company, this news organization, believed early on that giving back to the community was critical to what we do, being part of the community and not just informing the community, but caring about the community we live in. And that's that's our business model in a nutshell. That's our model. That's who we are. And in the early days, I've been told this, I was long before I ever got here, but Jasmine and her team had these random acts of kindness, 12 days of Christmas, right? So every day in the 12 days leading up to Christmas, they would go and deliver gifts to people who would be nominated because they were maybe down on their luck, they're struggling with some things. And in the early days, she told me that, you know, I had to beg companies to give me like a $50 gift card to go give to people, right? And now it's blown up into such an amazing thing. And they get dozens and dozens of nominations every year for people. And there's a really big process that goes into choosing who's going to get some help. So many different companies and organizations in the community come together to give, literally gift cards worth thousands of dollars, different kind of services. Algoma Steel gave someone a car last year or the year before, right? A group of parents who had fostered 100 different kids and they needed better transportation. And so every day she surprises a different person. And they're such powerful videos and
oh my goodness,
super emotional. So she and her team were nominated in the, let me get the category right. Which category was it? Best video content, of course.
Yeah.
So it's really well done. And, that idea of us caring about the communities we live in, that is who we are at Village. And I think it's really come into even sharper focus this year.
Has it ever?
We talk about that all the time, about how in order to we can't just do the trusted journalism in these communities. We have to care about where we live. We have to be, and that's what we are. Our journalists are in those communities. They live there. They work there. They pay taxes there.
Yes.
They use the services there. So they're very connected to those communities. So I think that's really critical, and it's been something we've been talking about lately, and we're going to be talking a lot more about next year.
We certainly will be, and that's why we're making that pivot, that shift from not just a local news organization to a community impact organization. Because when you look at all of the pillars of things that we're involved with, that's what we're doing. We're really making an impact in the communities that we serve.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to be talking about that a lot more next year and with some official things coming out. But it is, it's critical to the work that we do to care about, to show how much we care about the communities we're in. So it's a great company to be at, Scott. It's a great time to be here. Specifically from a journalism perspective, I challenge anyone to find a Canadian news company that's as positive about the future as we are.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a tough industry right now.
Is it ever?
It's tough. And we're really thinking hard about being not only sustainable, but thriving, right? And making sure that we can do this journalism that we do for a long time. So that is, sorry, you were going to say something?
No.
No, I don't want to cut you off.
No, I was just going to move into the next, phase of this show.
Yeah, which
we've been fortunate, and look, I mean, the three of us are in here every day doing a daily show is a grind. We know that, but we've had some phenomenal guests. Since we launched September the 8th. I thought maybe we could talk about it
for sure, and that's kind of the segue right into this show. Is like this show is part of that pulse of our local news sites, right? Is that you can go into your local news feed and you'll find an issue that's important to people all across Ontario, and we talk about those issues. I agree. I mean, do you want to start? Is there a particular one that sticks out for you?
Well, I will always say that my favorites over time obviously have been our sit-downs with the Prime Minister, because it doesn't get bigger than that, and to have an organization of our size afforded that opportunity at critical times in our history to have those one-on-ones when nobody else got them. I think that's always paramount to me. That's the top of the list. Jamie Campbell from Sportsnet this year in the middle of the Blue Jays' historic run was incredible. But I think if I had to pick one that was probably the most meaningful to me is probably Hazel Vanderwerken when she joined us and talked about Finley.
Yeah, that was a very powerful episode. For those who don't remember, Finley died after waiting a long time at the local hospital where he lived, and then eventually being transferred to Sick Kids as well. And his family has spent the time since fighting for change, fighting to improve wait times, especially for children. And it was a very emotional conversation, especially when we talked about, it's one thing to still be able to go on after what tragedy they've gone through, but to also take up that torch and be the person that's fighting for that change. That's a huge burden.
I can't imagine.
That's a huge burden on a family, and it's an evolving story. There's still more to come, I agree. And to have those kind of conversations on the show, people read about that case in the headlines. They read about that story. But it was a great conversation. It was an important conversation. When I say great, I mean important. It was where she's able to come and join us. It was a half an hour and talk in depth about her son, who he was, and what changes she's fighting for. And I think we have those kind of conversations. It's what I love the most about the show. It's the conversations. Even the conversation we had a couple nights ago with Detective Sergeant Steve Smith talking about how they found this serial killer they didn't even know existed. It's those kind of conversations. You read about that story in the headlines, but you come here and you can get a much deeper, much better understanding of what happened. I think too, and I think of our podcast kind of as an explainer piece. We talk about in journalism and doing the hard news piece, doing the explainer piece. There's a lot of explaining that goes on here because we don't know these topics very well, but we get to talk to the people who do know them. I think too,
and it's not a 4-minute soundbite.
No, exactly. Right? It's a full on conversation. One of my favorite conversations was the one where we talked about the bread fixing price scandal.
Yes,
and we had the lead lawyer on the class action come and talk about that. Jay Strasberg, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Jay, and it was great because Jay has done the rounds. He's been fighting this case for 8-9 years, and there's finally this big settlement. I hope you went on and registered for your piece of the pie.
That's right.
Because it's too late now. December 12th was the deadline. But Jay came on and we told him at the beginning, we want to talk in chronological order how this massive price-fixing scandal came to be, how it was exposed, and what it means for average Canadians. And it was a fascinating conversation. And you could tell he enjoyed the conversation.
Sure
he even told us that he enjoyed the conversation. He's like, I've done so many of these hits, like you said, quick 4-minute sound bites. But here I get to tell you the whole story. And at one point he said, this is it's like a movie. This should be someone should do a movie on this, right?
Absolutely.
And it was fascinating. You see the passion come out in his voice too. That's a grind for him and his team too, fighting these kind of cases. And to be able to talk about it, you just feel you see the passion, right? So I love stories like that. I think about even one of the other ones that stuck out to me that I really enjoyed. It was in the early days when we had Daryl Fox on, Terry Fox's brother.
Yeah.
So Daryl spent the summer, part of the summer, riding across the country in the opposite direction that his brother ran.
Yeah. And
he had a group of other cyclists with him, and they were trying to raise $1 million, I think, for the Terry Fox Foundation. And he went in reverse the direction his brother went. And we wanted to talk to him about that ride, but just about his brother. And you just, to me, it was a fascinating conversation because he has lived his life as Terry Fox's brother. And he talked about how that can be a burden too, that he melts for all Terry Fox. He wants to hear everyone's Terry Fox. When you told him about how you were a kid watching him on the side of the road with your grandparents, he loves those kind of stories and wants to hear them, right? But he was honest about like the burden of trying to be Terry Fox's brother and trying to keep that legacy going, right? And it was, and also the pain of knowing that a lot of Terry's work has made it so good for so many other patients, including patients with the same kind of cancer who would now live. They wouldn't die. They would live because of the treatments that have come. And that was very powerful for me. So I thought that kind of conversation, and again, that bike ride was all over the news as it went across Canada. The local media was covering it. He was interviewed often. But here he was sitting back home a couple weeks after it was done, had a chance to rest and recharge a little bit.
And reflect.
And it was an amazing conversation. Yeah. And I really, really appreciated that kind of, that one.
And we should mention now that the Terry Fox Foundation, as a result of the annual run now, is almost at $1 billion.
Yeah, that's
in money raised.
That's amazing.
Incredible.
There's when you think of a story where the game has been changed, where would cancer research be if Terry Fox never did what he did?
Well, they'd have $1 billion less.
Yeah, it wouldn't, and it wouldn't even have the same. I don't know. There's so many ifs in that, and I think we talked about that in the conversation. So if you didn't see that, when closerlookpodcast.ca, all of our podcasts, that is one that's near the beginning because it's one of the early day one. I would go listen to that one. It was very powerful. I think of the father of Lonnie Chum, who was on the show a few weeks ago, right? Yeah. Robert's daughter was run over in a hit and run in Moose Factory, Northern Ontario. And it's been more than a year or more than 2 years. I'm sorry, I forget. Has it been more than a year?
I think it's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's all you see. This is the thing when you do a daily show, right? It's just.
But what was powerful about it is that the police have released new information. At the time, they'd released new information about how they've narrowed it down to one truck.
Yes.
And we just wanted Robert. We asked him to just come on and talk about Lonnie, talk about his daughter, the kind of person she was. Yeah. And why it's so important for people who know what happened to just come forward and give this family some peace and some closure. And it was a very powerful conversation for me, mostly because of him, because of Robert, and just because of his strength and his fight, right? He's on
resilience.
He is fighting for justice for his daughter. And what really hit me too is just how close we were, how like he talked about how, you know, she was his partner and when they were trapping or whatever they were doing, she loved being outdoors. They were outdoors together all the time. And it really struck me, right? And just what a loss that is for him and just so senseless. I'm rambling here. You if you want to.
Yeah, no, I mean, Derek's not mic'd up, but I would almost have to think that Joe Bowen. Yeah, see?
Oh, yeah.
the reactions. Look, when Joe Bowen is calling you scoring a goal assisted by Austin Matthews.
I know. And what struck me, you know what you learn with the Joe Bowen conversation for me too, and with a lot of these, Jamie Campbell the same way. Those guys could be the most arrogant people on earth, right? Because of what they do. Yeah. But they're the opposite. And I think that's why they're successful. Yeah. I tell my kids this all the time. No one has any time for arrogant people. They don't want to be around them. You only go so far if you're cocky like that. Yep. Those guys are so humble and they do things for other. I think of Jamie and the way he stepped up to help us in Timmins with the T-shirt campaign, hit it all the way to Timmins. They were trying to raise $800. They raised more than $30,000, right? Yep. And that's because of the hard work of, I think, Maya Hoggett, our editor in Timmins. I think of her and the team she was working with. But the fact that Jamie threw his clout behind it, and publicized it the way he did, just made it take off, made it like a grand slam. Yeah. No pun intended.
Nice. I like how you did that. Ron McLean, another good guy. You know, they're on a whole different level. Now, you know, I will say that there are some that, you know, you do find disappointing, and they shall forever remain unnamed.
That's right.
But for the most part, we've had great experiences with people that, for a lot of reasons, could be a lot more pompous than they certainly are. They're just good humans.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think, you know, for me, the great part of the show is, you know, I've been a journalist for a long time. I tell stories for a living. It's been a great gig. And we do kind of tell a story every day on this show. There's a different, whether it's a serious, hard-hitting news story we're covering or just an interesting personality. But we do tell stories. And I think I do believe that when we ask guests to come on and we send them the link to a couple examples of our episodes, they see the kind of conversations we have here, and that to me, right. I'm grateful for that. That the more we do these great conversations and we're able to share them with people, then they're willing to come on. They understand what the show is and what we're doing, right? And I do appreciate that. I think of Dalton McGuinty, the former premier, when he was in town on the Sioux.
No question.
He has a new book out about leadership.
Be a good one.
Be a good one, I believe it's called. And Dalton, as he admitted himself, he is a figure that some people, when they hear his name, they just cringe, right? He still has that effect. Yeah. Kind of like Mike Harris does still. There's people who loved Mike Harris, couldn't stand Mike Harris. I guess that's the nature of when you're the premier.
For sure.
That's what happens. But I really enjoyed that conversation with Dalton, and we asked him some tougher questions too, just about the gas plant scandal ring. That's what people think about. And he answered those questions honestly, and he gave us the straight goods. But I found it, if you could get past politics, what he was saying really resonated with me too, about how we're not all here to collect a paycheck. We got to do something more than that. There has to be a little bit more, and I think that resonated with me too, and so I enjoyed that conversation. Another thrill too was having the wealthy barber come on and talk about his
David
new
Chilton,
update,
for sure.
Which was great. The guy's he's a legend in what he does. He's that book has helped so many Canadians with their finances and understand how to handle money. And he was just a great conversation. He joked about the basement, the studio that we're in, which was great. And I'll stop rambling. But the other one that was great was Jennifer Jones, the curling legend.
Yes.
When she came on the show, it was the middle of, it was still hot. It was like summertime.
Yeah, from her vehicle.
Yeah. And we didn't know this till the end of the show, but she was dying in there. It was so hot, right? And she was giving these amazing answers, and it was such a thoughtful interview. And then as soon as it was over, she threw the car door open because she was dying. It was so hot. And that just those little details. But she was fantastic. And I thought, when we finished that interview, I told her, I said, if we can do conversations like that every day, where everyone who loves curling knows who Jennifer Jones is, but there was just so much depth to that conversation, and it was great. We didn't just talk about that great shot she made, which was a fantastic shot.
It was.
We talked about so much more. So I think of that, and I'm going to lie. So there's one more I'm going to talk about. Well, maybe two. The other funny part of this show is I get to play editor. Well, I am the editor, I guess that's what the title says. But I get to
don't tell the boss you're playing editor.
I get to play editor.
You actually are,
because I'll come in here sometimes. I'll say, okay, we're gonna do a show on this, and most of the time you and Derek are like, yeah, that sounds good. And then sometimes I can see you just looking at me going, what the hell kind of a show is that, right? But I wanted to do a show on tossing candy at Christmas parades.
I remember,
because people were talking about it. And when I said that to you two guys, you were both staring at me like a deer in headlights.
I think we both looked at each other.
That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
What in the actual hell?
But the reality is, all these communities across North America are banning candy tossing at parades for liability because they're insurance companies. Because tragically, some kids have gotten run over by floats because they're running to get candy. Yeah, and. For me, it was a talker. I thought it was fascinating. And we ended up reaching out to a lawyer I know who put me in touch with another lawyer. Tudor Gadget came on and talked. And he knew exactly why it was a topic. He knew exactly why it was important, why cities weren't allowing it anymore. And I thought it was a great conversation. I haven't checked the numbers, but it did well.
It did extremely well.
People watched that episode, and there was people had thoughts about it. The comments were all, but of course, everything is about just you're all a bunch of. It's all a bunch of wokes now. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But there's reasons why you don't allow candy tossing. And then
it all makes sense.
Then a couple nights later, I went to the local Santa Claus parade. It was terrible weather. It was raining. And I thought, thank God they're not tossing candy all over the place. It'd be landed in this puddle over here, and it'd be gross. Anyways, but then the last one...
finally, he's halfway done.
Yeah, this was your idea too, which was good. There was the headlines about how Canada's going to allow cloned meat.
Yes.
Right? And you said, cloned meat, what the hell is that? Yeah. Right? And Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, who's a friend of the show, and I've been on a few times. He's from the Dalhousie University, and he's he's the food professor, as he's known, right? Yeah. And he agreed to come on and talk about, it was actually him that found out about this and actually exposed this and talked about it. it was an amazing conversation because we learned that there's not a single study that shows there's any problem with eating cloned meat.
Right.
There's no safety concerns with cloned
Exactly.
meat. It's the optic concerns, right?
Yes.
And it actually has been for sale for years in the United States. And
Nobody
what he thought was hilarious was when he came out, all the people in the United States say, "What do you mean we sell cloned meat in the United States?" Which I thought was funny. So we're having all these kind of conversations. You learn something new every day. And I think that's the goal. And I do want to tell people that we know that we're in Ontario, that our news sites serve communities across this province. And every night when we talk on this show about something, I only will talk about things that are relevant to people in Ontario. I have to ask myself, we ask ourselves, is what we're going to talk about relevant to a person in southwestern Ontario, in northern Ontario,
Yes.
in Simcoe County, in Halton region? Is it relevant to those people? And that's how we kind of guide the show.
Yeah.
So we don't just talk we don't just pick random topics to talk about. There are topics that matter to people in Ontario. And even I think one of the great guests which you booked was having the U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra on the show.
Right, yeah.
That's relevant to people all over this province because what he's doing and what the Trump administration is doing is impacting people in this province. So if you watch the podcast, if you listen to the podcast, you see it in your local news feeds. There's a lot of thought that goes into the fact that we know this is running in our local news sites in Ontario.
Yeah.
And we are committed to telling the stories that matter to people in Ontario. Now, it might not matter to every person. They might decide that doesn't interest me. I don't want to know about that.
For sure.
But it's relevant to people in Ontario. And I think that's really the kind of the guiding light of the show. That's our the principle that we go by. And I've already got some ideas spinning in my little head about what we're going to talk about in the new year. So I'm excited about it.
All right, good stuff. Spaces, do you want a quick mention of Spaces launching?
Yeah, I should have mentioned that near the beginning of the show. But in terms of what Village has accomplished, and this has nothing to do with me and you.
No.
It's all Derek.
Yeah, well, are most things.
Yeah, exactly. But Spaces is our own social network, and it's launched in most of our communities, and there are thousands of people that are on Spaces right now. This is a toxic-free actual place where you can go and connect with people in your community over shared interests and passions.
Yeah.
So there could be a woodworking group in your community where people are on this. And what's been amazing to watch Spaces work, or it could be a photography group.
For sure.
What else is there? Baking, cooking, baking.
Yeah. Travel, photography, you name it.
So people in the same community, say, Aurelia, for example, who have shared these same passions can join these spaces, as we call them, interact with people. Each space has a host.
Yep.
There's no anonymity. There's no algorithms. It's all chronological. You can talk about different things you want to talk about in that group. And what we're seeing too is it's actually creating real life encounters. So there's a group in the Sioux of old car enthusiasts. They
Classic cars.
They love classic cars, and now they get together once a month and they meet and they build events around this space, which is really cool to see. And it's part of our mission to connect the people in our communities and to do good for the people, to actually have a place where people can get together and talk about those shared interests and shared passions. So Space has been great. Full shout out to the tech team here at Village. And the design team here at Village. It's just they're beautiful. If you haven't seen it, spaces.ca, and then you can go from there to your local community. So that's been another amazing thing for Village. I just think there's so much to come in 2026, and we'll be telling some of those stories, I think, on the podcast as well.
We will, for sure.
But yeah, it's been great, and I think we also have to thank all the people who work on this podcast.
Well, and that's probably a great way to put a wrap on this episode. It's not just you and I. We're the faces of the show, but there's so much behind the scenes that happens, and they're the true heroes, right? We just sit here and talk, but they're doing all the heavy lifting, and we should certainly give a shout out to Jada Avila, Steph Andrews, and Leah Johnson. They handle all the branding and graphics. Zach Trunzo and Drew Armstrong on the video and production side, and we would be remiss if we did not thank the executive producer, who 5 days a week is literally put through hell because of you and I. And in the end, he makes it all look like a wonderful piece of artistry.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's Derek Turner, and he is definitely one of the best.
Definitely. Way to go, Derek. It's mostly the hell's mostly from Scott. Let's be honest. I'm an easy to work with.
You guys are the face. Which part am I?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But it is, if you, wherever you work, whatever you do, when you have a well-oiled machine, it makes it way easier. We do this now mostly by feel. We don't have to, we think of our ideas, we plan out, we plot out our guests, we come in here. The three of us can show up at the same time, sit down in our chairs, and get right to where we know exactly what we're doing.
We do.
And there are times when it might not seem like it, but we're on really tight deadlines for these shows. Something could be breaking. The show's being recorded very late in the day, and it's got to be cut up and produced the right way. Huge shout out to Derek and the work he does. The show looks great because of it. Sounds great because of it. I think we just have a lot to be grateful for in 2025. Our mission in 2026, at least a closer look, is to give you programming 5 days a week, 5 nights a week.
Right.
We're going to keep talking about the issues that impact you, that impact people across Ontario. But we're going to have some very serious issues. We're going to have some fun with some conversations. And like I said, I already have a list of ideas for 2026. So you better get some rest.
Is it a nice list or a naughty list?
It's probably both.
I would expect nothing less. Closerlookpodcast.ca is where you can find us. In fact, what a way to spend your Christmas holidays.
Just
fire it up and
don't even talk to the family. No, just skip Christmas
dinner. Let's be honest, you probably don't like most of them anyway.
Yeah, you can just put that AirPod in your ear now, right?
See?
And people don't even know. So my kids do that all day. I don't know. I'm talking to them.
Closerlookpodcast.ca and reach out anytime. We always love to get feedback. Closerlook@villagemedia.ca. For executive producer Derek Turner and Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief. I'm Scott Sexsmith. We appreciate your time tonight and every night. And on behalf of the entire team, we wish you nothing but the happiest of holidays. We'll be returning on January 5th, 2026, right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.